how do we live as human beings, like the Navajo would say, how to be a human being. Just that is like a spiritual practice
No kidding.
in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
So I think hula has a lot to offer,
Yeah.
and so does Zen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in trying to be a sane, rational human today amidst many challenges.
Sure. Sure. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that there was a siren going in the background. I was like, how perfect an analogy. Ready to have a deeper conversation about body and soul, sacred leadership, and our collective evolution? Welcome to the Wise Body Ancient Soul podcast with me, your host, Charisse Sisou. I am so honored and delighted to introduce my Kumu Hula June Yoshiko Kaililani Ryushin Tanoue, MPH Kumu Hula and Roshi, co-founder of Zen Life and Meditation Center. Roshi June Ryushin Tanoue has been practicing Zen since 1993. She received transmission on October 12, 2014, and was fully empowered as a Zen teacher or sensei and a Zen Buddhist priest. On December 27, 2022, she received Inka, or final approval, from her teacher as a Roshi. June is also a Kumu Hula, or a master teacher of hula. She founded her hula school, called Halau Ikapono, the Hula School of Chicago, in September 2009. Kumu June was born in Lapohehohe on the Hamakua, or Breath of the Ancestors Coast on Hawaii Island. She began hula classes at age 6 through 8 with Louise Beamer, and then danced off and on with other teachers like George Naope and Newton Hitchcock. She began studying seriously in 1988 with Kumu Hula Michael Pilipang, his Halau Hula Ka no Eo in Waimea. And that began a wonderful journey of learning hula and becoming part of a halau. They won competitions. They performed all over the place, including New York City and Pittsburgh. Kumu June went through traditional uniki ritual and graduated as Olapa, or dancer, in 1994. Olapa Ho'opa'a, or dancer and keeper of the chants, in 1996. And achieved Kumu Hula, or master teacher, in June 2000. I am honored to consider her one of my mentors and teachers, and so delighted to bring her compassionate wisdom to you today. You're a teacher on so many levels. What? Well, I was going to ask you what called you to hula, but you started at age 6. So is that just your parents called you to hula, or did that desire come from you? How did you get started there?
Well, I know my father used to play a lot of Hawaiian music on the radio when he would work in his garage. He was a mechanic and he loved Hawaiian music. And so I think from that and my love of dance, I remember just when I was young, just, dancing all over the place when I was little, making up a spontaneous dance. And so my mother tells me I asked her to take me to hula class at age 6. So I don't really remember that, but I do remember loving it. And then, so it was a natural outcome of living in Hawaii with my, whatever was born in this body.
How beautiful that you had that desire so early on. It feels like it was in your blood. So take me forward from there, because, I know you're going through this process with your students now of helping. I'm going to use the term graduate. It's a very Western term, but as a dancer, right? What does that mean? Take us through that hula journey. What do each of these stages mean, and what does it take to kind of to achieve them? the
That's a good
lessons?
question. I was really lucky to go back to Hawaii after living in on the continent for 10 plus years. So I got a master's from the University of Hawaii in public health nutrition. And in 1975, I left Hawaii and worked in Portland, Oregon
Mm,
at the food bank. So there I studied hula off and on, and I just loved the movement. But when we came back to Hawaii in 1988, came back because my father had just had a heart attack. So I wanted to be close to family.
of course.
And just 5 minutes from where I lived, I found a Kumu Hula, Michael Pili Pan, because I was looking for hula. What I really was looking for was when I used to see, in like the Merry Monarch, the big hula festival, right, or any kind of event, and they would have a Hawaiian chanter or a chanter, chanting in Hawaii. Tears would always come to my eyes.
Me too.
And so I thought, what is that does that? And I thought, I want to learn that. It's something coming from the heart, which I didn't really understand at the moment. But I knew it was just something so beautiful that I would start crying. So I looked around for a hula teacher, and there he was, my kumu, Michael Pilipang, 5 minutes from where I lived. And so I joined his halau. And I remember, the beginner class, which you've done the beginner class. And after about a month, my kumu asked if I would like to join another class, which was his advanced, a little more advanced than the beginner class. They were studying kahiko, the ancient dance, which you have also
Just
started.
yeah.
Yes, so I remember going to that class and just watching because I knew nothing. And they were dancing. And I remember thinking, how beautiful it was. I was just really struck, and they were all dancing together. He was chanting, and slowly I got integrated into that class. So it just started from there, and he was old school. He was younger than me by 12 years, I think, something like that. He started his halal when he was 25.
Wow,
Something. I
yeah.
started my halal, what was that? It was 15 years ago, right? And I'm 70, I'll be 74 this year. So
That's amazing.
he
You're a
was,
walking testament to the rejuvenation of dance and
who
hula
is
and
really was,
mindfulness because,
yes.
yeah.
But he, was very well trained by Mikey Ayu Lake, his teacher, who is the mother of the Hawaiian Renaissance, who graduated a lot of Kumu Hulas, the famous ones you see today, like Robert Casamero, Mapuana de Silva, a lot of very good Kumu Hulas. So he was very well trained. He was Chinese American also, so he was not, but he was very close to his teacher and to her husband, who was Kahauanu Lake. And he headed the trio that made beautiful music of the time of the 70s and 80s. And she would choreograph the hulas, that he would write the songs and melodies, usually with Maddie Lamb, and she would choreograph them, and these have become classics in her styling, in her what we call lineage or genealogy. So hula has a genealogy that goes back. I think the first recorded hula is maybe 900 AD. So there's a line. Um,
That's
so I
amazing.
was trained very well, and he Auntie Mikey wanted you to take notes, to see, to put hula sheets together, which is the hands and the feet motions, to translate the Hawaiian, also because the Hawaiian language is such a beautiful language, and they only have 12 letters, I think, in their alphabet. So words can mean many different things. So the power of the words is very important. So translating, you get to learn Hawaiian, this beautiful language, so you know what you're dancing, because hula is telling a story. Right. So we would have quizzes regularly about the translation, the Hawaiian words and the translation. And we would also have tests on dancing. So there was a combination of the Western with the cultural, which, they didn't have actually a written language until the missionaries came, which was
Right.
1860s or so. Right. And so it was all passed down orally, these dances and everything. So Auntie Mikey started tests and, writing, which is great because now, back in the day, there were people who were trained for memory to remember all and then to pass it on to the next person who was trained in the memory. But today, we need the book. I need the book. My memory, I can see, is leaving. The other beautiful thing about hula, that my Kumu said, that a talent is on loan to you. Isn't that a beautiful way to look at impermanence?
Yeah.
Which is very Buddhist.
Well, who is it on loan from? Or where is that coming from?
Well, who knows the answer to that question, right? Our ancestors before us, we have their DNA, right? We have their DNA. So, and then who knows what else? Where else? Who else are our ancestors? Because now, when you are kind of graduated, unikied, right, in this lineage, you become part of the lineage too. So there's something coming through from the past, the ancestors. May not be blood, but there is something coming through.
Right. Well, and this, I relate to the experience you shared about when I first heard the chants. I would see a picture of the islands and I would start to cry. But the chants really moved me. And when I took the first Kahiko class with you, and you said something really interesting in that class about how we are dancing not upon the earth but really with earth. Am I remembering that right? Like it's like a deeper level to your point about, somehow the ancestors dance through us through this dance, and it feels like it's because the breath, the voice, we're using the same chants because that's how that lineage was passed down. It wasn't passed down written, it was passed down orally. The chants, the movement. So in a way, it's like by embodying the same words and sounds and movements of our ancestors, even if there's no blood connection, we are embodying them here in the here and now. Is that, yeah, tell me more about that because
Right.
that's like
So
my
it's
world.
very right. So I'm also, I've been a practitioner of Zen Buddhism for quite a number of years now. I think I started in about 1993 or something like that, where started sitting zazen, which is meditation, a kind of mindfulness meditation where you're just sitting and practicing noticing thoughts and letting them go. So noticing that they are not solid, they're just thoughts, impermanent, they kind of float in, who knows from where, and then they float out, going who knows where. Right? So that practice has been absolutely key for my hula practice, actually. Very key for me. Everybody's different, but for me, it has been really, really important because our minds can get so full of things that are so not important and so not real,
Isn't that the
right?
truth?
And
Yeah.
so the practice is letting go of it so that you don't get overwhelmed, with thoughts, right? That is a strong practice, and it is not easy to work with your thoughts. It's a discipline, right? It is a discipline.
Absolutely.
Um, so when I say about where you become the earth. So on one level, yes, you are dancing on the earth. You are in an embodied form, and we call that the relative form in Zen Buddhism,
Mm.
right? We all are different. We all have our own individuality. And there is also an absolute form, which is where we are deeply so not individual. We
Right.
are so connected to one another. We could not have our life without the earth, without the sun, without the rain. So, this idea that we are an independent entity and we're just going to do it alone, alone, I mean, on a certain level, yes, we have responsibilities, we have goals we want to accomplish, we have to put forth effort, right? And on another level, it's hard to explain this other level, what in Zen we call emptiness,
Mm.
which doesn't mean a void. It just means it's empty of this individual self that we have constructed, this ego that is so all important on the relative world, right? Everything is about me,
Mm.
I, me, mine in the
Mm. Mm.
relative world. But when you think of it in a larger sense, Natalie Goldberg, who I have been studying writing with through her workshop, she's a Zen practitioner and a wonderful writer. It's like she was talking about monkey mind.
Yes.
I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody's familiar with monkey mind and we kind of denigrate it. But it's life. This is how our mind works. And so it's not about pushing it away,
Right.
but it's about seeing it and going, okay, I see you. Now I can work with you. Okay, now I can let go and I see you come back. Okay, it's the practice of letting go. But monkey mind, if you look at the vast sky is a metaphor for this emptiness that we talk about in Zen. I
Mm.
mean, it's vast. It's not a void. It's got so many clouds in it. It's got planets in it, universes in it. Monkey mind is just a little dot in that
Mm.
vastness.
Right.
Uh-huh. And yet we think the monkey mind is the vastness, but it's not. It is just a little dot. Like if you put,
Vastness.
marker over there in the vast empty sky.
I just
And so
got a
that's
visual of a huge sky with just like a little arrow, like you are here. Dink, you
that's,
know?
that's your monkey mind is there, because you are also the vast sky, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I love, if we can remember that image and we're so caught up in the monkey mind, can we just pause, take a breath, and just kind of look around or just
Right.
feel, right? Feel that you are part of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe your little drama is not that important,
Right.
but you got to work with it, right? Because for some people, it is just overpowering.
Yeah. Well, and
So, yeah,
it's so beautiful what you said earlier. It's not about pushing it away or, you know, bypassing, denouncing it, or anything like that. It's
right,
really, it felt so compassionate what you said about, this is life. It's normal. And, here's part of the mindfulness. And this is where I see the connection with hula too, is being able to step back and see the connectedness with that. And
right.
right, that this is just a little fragment. We can see it, we can look at it, we can witness it. for me, what I'm hearing you say and how I'm relating it in my body to hula as a dancer is, I know when I'm dancing, as soon as I get in my head, that's when I lose. That's when I lose the beat, lose the choreo, lose whatever it is. And it's such a practice. When I really got that as a dancer, it completely changed my dance. When I really got, oh, the more I'm just present, because what you're talking about to me, that just feels like presence and connecting. Um, then
Yes. And
yeah,
in the
totally,
beginning when you're learning something, you do have to use your mind because it is
absolutely
a brain body connection, right? Because
true.
you are learning different movements that are new that your body does not know. And repetition is a key then, just like you're memorizing a piece of poetry or something. You just have to be with it for a long time for it to become into the muscle memory, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then, so it's not like you're, going somewhere else. You're present in your body. You're doing different movements until the body gets it, and then you can add a different element to it, right? Not so hard focus
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
that, but that you can start to think about story, or you can just be into feeling, but you're always aware because you're dancing. Hula is a group activity. You're dancing with others, so you don't want to, you know, you know, bang into another person and hit another person, right? So you are aware at all times. And there
Mm-hmm.
are those moments, though, of transcendence, like anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where when you're so into it that you forget that self that is so self conscious,
Yes.
you can just kind of let it go. And it could be just for a moment, but it's a beautiful moment. And we don't get attached to that moment like, oh, I'm not doing it right because I don't have this feeling anymore. No, no, it's all part of it, right? There's
Yeah,
no one way to do it.
that's beautiful.
Transcendence and the mundane, it's both together. It's kind of like the absolute and the relative. They are both together in this world.
That's true. That's true. Hmm. Beautiful. I thank you for that. I love that because I feel like I am always kind of pursuing that transcendent moment, but to your point, it's with a gentle hand. It doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong if I'm not reaching it, because exactly like you say, there is that point of learning. I love being after being a professional belly dancer for so many years and coming into hula, I love being in that beginner's mind again of knowing nothing, learning
I think
everything
that's
from
good for your
scratch.
brain. I think that's really a healthy thing to do, actually, for everybody is to keep learning something new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always. Yes.
Wow.
I think it's great what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Taking us back into the hula journey. So because I was really, I thought this was so cool. So you were talking about to reach that uniki, right? Dancer
Mm-hmm.
is like what you saw in your halau was bringing together kind of old and new, like the oral as well as let's have quizzes and tests and have written
Yes.
documentation
Yes.
of the dances, right? So how do you go from what's the next level? And how do you get to Kumu? Like what does that require?
Well, I can tell you about my training, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was working full time at the time as well. Oh, and there was a moment somewhere I was not working in between jobs, which was very helpful because it can really, as you advance, there's more things to do. Make your drum, which takes a long time, out of
Yeah.
coconut. And,
Yeah.
but, so it's really about life. Hula is life.
Mm.
hmm So there's a lot of hula things to do. You're doing performances at the same time, other performance besides trying to get all your work done for hula. Keeping up with your book is so important, right? Because I can attest now I need my book. Then I didn't need my book, but now I need to see, oh my God, how do I do this hula again? Thank God I've got the hands and the feet. It helps me remember. So at
Yes.
the time, you might not think, oh, I don't need this now, but it's very
Well,
helpful.
and
Yeah.
also, there's a difference between knowing a handful of dances and now, in your head, or you've
Yeah.
danced hundreds of dances, right? So, of course, it's so
Yeah.
nice to
There's a
have
lot.
that reference. Um, I, Tell me more about the, yeah, making your own drum, because I think this for me, I was trained in Western dance. Like I did the ballet thing for many years. And then I did Egyptian dance, and so it's like I went from something where there's no, like, very, very codified, right? Names for
Right.
everything, to Middle Eastern dance where it's still like completely orally passed down. Everyone has different names for all of the things, you know? And then coming back around to hula, what I really am seeing is it's not just the dance, right? It's the family of the halau, of the school that you are a part of. It's the learning of the culture. So tell me more about this. Like you had to make a drum.
Oh, yeah. We had to make a number of instruments that we use, our own, which is super, which is great because we learned, it's the feathered gourd that we had to sew. And as you're making this, it's also very meditative,
Mm.
right? So you're learning a craft that, people made in the old days. Um, what else did we make? We had to make our double-headed gourd. Um, we had to make feather leis for our head.
Mm.
So all of these, they're kind of like, how do you approach your life? Okay, I've never done this before. Am I going to freak out now and just be stopped, blocked? Or am I going to freak out and go, okay, I know this is one of the way I am when something new happens, but can I, okay, just approach it step by step? Okay, I'll read the directions. I'll get a little instruction from my kumu. I might ask my hula sister, and then I'm going to follow the instructions the best way I can. This is like your life, right? Like
Absolutely.
anything in your life, you're learning anything. But in hula, you're learning a cultural practice.
Yeah.
And then as you're
Amazing.
learning the cultural practice, you're learning values also of the Hawaiian culture, which is so different than Western culture. Very respectful, very hands on, not just head, right? But very hands on, dancing, making things, writing. Um,
Mm.
all of the cultural values are part of the activity.
Mm.
And so making a drum is a huge thing, right? You have to select or find, a tree, a coconut tree that has fallen. You have to, ask a friend, to get you something like this tall. Luckily, my kumu had done that, and had gotten pieces, so I didn't have to do that. And then I've never carved before, but it was great, using this mallet to hit their tools for carving. I had to learn how to use tools. I have to learn how to use electrical tools too, like saws and things like that. But we got help also. Um, we had to make a knee drum made out of coconut and the skin of a fish,
Yeah.
kala. I think it's the surgeon fish. It has a little unicorn
Mm.
horn. And so you had to have, if you had a friend, like my brother's fish. So I actually got fish. They refished and they got, but you're using the skin of the fish. They go with the spears, so you can't have a fish with a spear in the middle of the
Right.
body, right?
That would make a
So
bad drumhead. Yeah.
yeah, correct, yeah, yeah. So it's all, and the drum, actually, the drum head, usually you use shark skin,
Mm,
but we didn't have access to shark skin unless you knew a fisherman who got a shark, and so we use
mm,
cowhide.
mm.
So you use what you have,
Yes.
that's available. Yeah. So all of that is teaching you a cultural practice. And so you have to leave your Western mind aside.
Mm,
And
mm,
I've got to say too, my teacher was very strict,
mm.
and he was young and we're older. And so, he would get really mad if we didn't. And, there would be some yelling, right? So that was really great in terms of being able to work with your ego. And,
Mm.
there's so much involved because in Zen, you're really looking inward and you're working with what's there. Old
Yes.
patterns that you've learned from when you were young. You're trying to work with it. You can't see everything, but you can see a lot and go, oh, wow, that's interesting. Then you're breaking a habit, which, is hard to break a habit. It's repetition, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, it was super in terms in Zen. We say, everybody has Buddha nature. We're all born with it, which is this loving, open, openness, wisdom that's there in everyone. So that was a good thing to really try to integrate when you're getting yelled at for not doing the step right that you think you're doing right, but you're not, which is so interesting, right? So
Yeah.
that was a great opportunity to practice. Wow, I noticed, I'm feeling really hurt and I'm feeling really unworthy, which is
Mm.
a normal thing that most of us feel in our life because our culture is kind of ingrained in terms of, that we're not worthy. Children have it at a really young age,
Yeah.
right? They're not worthy. Capitalist or whatever reason why, buy this product, you're going to be beautiful, right? So it was a great time to really put into practice, okay, where's my Buddha nature now? Yeah, is it there? Okay, why can't I not see it right now? Okay, so I have to feel these feeling of unworthiness. All right, I'm going to work with it, right? It's interesting though,
Yeah.
because it can be really deep and people can hold grudges that you don't even know you have a grudge. And then, but who is it hurting? It's you that it's hurting, not
So
anybody
true.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's such a whole process of self awakening and
Absolutely.
realization. And then when you realize it, then you have to put it into practice. You have to start, saying, okay, I believe in myself. I love
Mm.
myself, right? The loving kindness meditation is such a great one for when you're feeling unworthy, right? May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. That's such a beautiful um, self acknowledgement, self blessing, and then when you can really kind of work and feel that really deep in your heart. And some people have a really hard time doing that. I mean, even
Mm.
I myself, I have a hard time doing that. And so I say, okay, so you're practicing with this, so maybe you can, if you have a pet that you love, you can start to send loving kindness to the pet, right?
Mm.
And then you're saying, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you live with ease. And when you do this over and over again, see if you notice your heart and what is your heart doing, right? Is it starting to feel good and kind of, maybe a little bit opening? That to me is that generation of compassion and
Mm-hmm.
aloha. really. That's
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing in the heart when you're doing that. And when you're dancing and you're really enjoying yourself, you're opening your heart, then, which is a great practice.
Yes.
The whole culture is based on aloha and generosity and love. And so it's such a wonderful culture and practice.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful listening to you talk because I really see the way that the Zen teaching and the Hula teaching kind of really flowed back and forth for you. Thank you for being a teacher that does not yell at us. Because that requires compassion because I know sometimes we are frustrating when we haven't done our homework or practiced. So I do recognize that. Um, I think too, you hit on something so beautiful, and that really made an impression on me. How hula is about really communicating this spirit of aloha. What like can we dive into, because I feel like it's related to this loving kindness, right? That you're talking about. And I think part of why this dance is, we're still fascinated by it and still dancing it is because you feel that love being communicated. I tell me more about that. What's your experience with that? What's your understanding of aloha?
So when you really integrated the hula and you're just dancing for the joy of it, right? You've really integrated the motions. You understand maybe not each word, but you understand the gist of what you're dancing. Then that joy that comes from your heart, it just radiates your entire being. And I'm sure you have felt this. And the cool thing about it is that I think in neuroscience, they talk about mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are so fascinating because when spectators or people in the audience are watching you, they are actually feeling the same feelings you are feeling. So if you're feeling like, oh my God, I don't know if I know this dance, and I think this is the next motion, well, they're going to feel that too. so so one great thing about performances for me is that it's kind of a little goal, that it's a little spur to get you to practice, to integrate this into your body because you want to have a great experience. And I know people have talked about, stage fright, and that's a real thing. And for me, that's just your body getting ready. All the hormones, what adrenaline are going, which are actually good because that keeps you alert and you know what's going on. And so if you can work with that, but you gotta do that discipline ahead of time, right? The practice ahead of time. If you haven't done that, well, unless you're, I don't know, somebody
Yeah.
who doesn't need practice, then I don't know. I haven't seen too many people like that, if any.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that discipline, that effort is very important to put in
Mm. Mm-hmm.
regular, and that discipline, it is in our Zen Buddhist practice. Um, it's a practice of a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is an enlightened being that's actually helping others to also be enlightened. Actually, they're working towards enlightenment and they're kind of putting off their enlightenment and they're helping others to kind of be at the same level where you all get enlightened together. You're all practicing, right?
Mm.
It's enlightenment is practice, we say. Practice is enlightenment. It's not out here, but it's just where you are, what you're doing
Yes.
right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like what you're speaking right now is This is exactly the thing. There is no sort of like achieving, even the word achieving is so not appropriate, but like
Yes.
achieving enlightenment, right? It's not
Right.
that. It is a practice. It is a discipline. And I
Yeah.
think I think you're speaking something so important and so vital, especially today, because I think we have this yearning where, or we think, I'll just speak for myself. I thought, oh, once I get this, or once I get to here, I'll be
Yes.
happy, and
Yes.
I'll never be concerned again, and da 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 da. And it's like this constantly moving point. When I have that right relationship, when I have a certain amount of money coming in the door, when whatever it looks like, and yet, what I've been so grateful to learn over my, 50 times around the sun is that it's an ongoing practice. There is no point where it's like, well, I don't need to meditate anymore. I'm all done with that. Like that doesn't happen. It's like it's actually that ongoing practice, that ongoing discipline. But then that gives us that ability to touch transcendence in the mundane, it feels.
Yes. That's absolutely, like we say, hula is life. Zen is life.
Yes. Right. It just teaches you. And I'm just thinking, what you were describing about the hula practice, like making the drums, making, the lei, like, there's such an appreciation for that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so different from the culture that we live in here now,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
many of us do, where, oh, we need something. Well, especially now, we need something. You just go to Amazon and you order it, right? And yet, if I think of my grandparents, or even more so my great grandparents now, they made everything themselves. Or my grandparents on my mother's side, they made there was no, oh gosh, I need this tool. Let me get down to the local hardware store. No, they would look around and say, how do I fashion this from what I have? And it was such a different way of being connected with our environment, of using the resources available to us. And it's so fascinating because it's like, it's not necessarily about going backwards, but I think part of what we can learn from these practices that go back so far, into ancient times, is there is so much wisdom that we need in the right here and now. That's not about going backwards in time, but rather bringing, and I feel like that's a big part of why I have Wise Body Ancient Soul, is to bring ancient, or I see it as like eternal wisdom forward, so that we are present with it now, because we're needing it more than ever, it feels. Because we're
Right.
pulled in these different ways, because there are ways that things are, we could say, easier or different or harder. You know what I mean? It's, but just different, right? Than maybe the environment our ancestors found themselves in. But the practices are still so valuable. Wow, that's the ancestors going, yes, I agree.
Right. Right. So, how do we bring that ancient wisdom into our modern life? And I say one step at a time, right? Whatever we're doing, and it's so Zen, we're in the
Mm,
moment and we're doing it. And maybe we need to, expand our vision. How do we live as human beings, like the Navajo would say, how to be a human being. Just that is like a spiritual practice
no kidding.
in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
So I think hula has a lot to offer,
Yeah.
and so does Zen,
Mm-hmm.
in trying to be a sane, rational human
Mm.
today amidst many challenges.
Sure. Sure. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that there was a siren going in the background. I was like, how perfect an analogy. And you're talking about, finding this presence today.
Right.
Amidst
And
all of those challenges.
yeah.
Mm,
So I've been following the moon, the Hawaiian moon calendar
right.
now, which is really a great way to live. There, you can get it on Instagram, Kamahina, or I think Facebook, Kamahina.
Mm-hmm.
You can sign up,
Mm,
and it's really great. On the different moon days, and what does that mean? And I've actually forgotten today, but it's a kulua or kukahi moon, which is a good day for planting. The ancestors are very present. Ku means to be upright. So if you plant now the seeds, they will grow tall and strong. So, so for me, seed planting is such a great metaphor too, right?
mm,
What seeds are we going to plant today in
right.
our lives? And I don't think we have to think too hard and long on it,
Mm-mm.
because a lot of it is the actually doing something, how to be upright in our world today. That's being kind for sure. Maybe it's doing something you've been putting off, just getting right into it and trying to make a little dent. Maybe it's not denigrating yourself. You know how we talk so harshly to ourselves. Kind of let that go. Maybe it's having that conversation with somebody we really need to have a conversation with, and but just practicing with that aloha heart of kindness as much as possible.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, and I think planting the seeds, I think even just in the context of our conversation, I remember a teacher told me years ago, it was in the context of, dancing to Egyptian music. She was like, always know what you're dancing to, right? Like, just you emphasize this too in the hula, like, know what it is that you're dancing to. But her point was, especially for us Western dancers, we're like, oh, this has got a great beat. And then we're just out there like, dancing away, and it's like this political, like protest song, and we're like, hi, and we're like, know what you're dancing to. And her point was, you never know who is in the audience. You never know who is in the audience and what they know that you don't know, or blah, blah, that they're like, there's going to be that Arabic speaker or whatever who's going to know and will, see the disparity in the dance. But I always think of that because even in this conversation, someone listening, it's always my intention, like, what are those seeds that we are planting with this? And it might be, oh, maybe hula is something to check out, right? Like you as a young girl, like, take me to hula. I want to dance hula, you know, or someone will hear something and go, oh gosh, I've always wanted to explore Zen and, connect with meditation, or even just thinking about what we talked about earlier, you know, having a more compassionate frame for our monkey mind, you know? Because again, too, people can, like that denigration, right, that you talked about, like we're so hard on ourselves, right? And yet how we treat ourselves is like that's what ripples out into, you know? So that's so beautiful, and so perfect that today is the day for planting seeds. So before we close, are there any final seeds that you would like to plant for our listeners?
I have a favorite Hawaiian proverb. Mary Kavena Pukui put this book together, Olelo no Eau, Hawaiian Poetical Sayings and Proverbs. And it goes something like this: E le kau, e le ho'oilo, I ke aloha. Love is worn like a lei through the summers and winters. Love is everlasting.
That's beautiful. Can I can I ask you to repeat that, because I think my stomach was growling when you
Okay.
said it the first time. So I would, you know, just in case that comes across in the recording and you're
Oh
saying these
no.
beautiful
All right.
words and it's like, "Rawr." So
Okay.
one
Yeah,
more
this is
time.
just a beautiful, beautiful proverb. E le kau, e le ho'oilo, I ke aloha. Love is worn like a lei through the summers and winters. Love is everlasting, which for me means love is everywhere. And that is what lasts, our love.
Perfect. I mean, mic drop. There you go. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today, Kumu. Where can people connect with you?
So they can go to the website halauikapono.org. Or if it's a lot to remember, Hula School, Oak Park. That's where we're located. We're in the first suburb west of Chicago.
Yes.
Oak Park,
But you
Hula.
have virtual classes as well.
Oh,
So
yes.
that's what I
We
love
have,
so much is you can train in person, but you can also train virtually.
yes, online.
Mm-hmm.
So we have beginner classes on Tuesdays from 11 to 12 noon, CST, Chicago time. And that's the only beginner class I have right now. But hopefully there will be more in the future. And we are celebrating our 15th anniversary this year, 15 years that Halau has formed. I've actually been teaching for 20 years.
Mm.
And, I have learned so much in the last 20 years. From when I first began as a Kumu Hula, you think that, oh, you're a Kumu Hula, you know everything. But when you're just beginning as a Kumu Hula, you're like, you know, uh, my husband's Zen teacher says, like, there's three stages, right? There's an immature stage, and then there's a growing stage, and then mature. So this 20 years for me have been, from immature to growing. I think I'm heading toward mature, but it's hard to know. So anyway.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, and I'll have the links to everything will be in the show notes, in the description on YouTube, on the website page. So for sure, people can connect with you as well as with the Zen Life Meditation Center too. So thank you again for your
All
time
right.
today.
Thank you
So
so
beautiful.
much. Thank you, Charisse. Mahalo.
Thanks for joining me on Wise Body, Ancient Soul. I hope it reminds you how magical and powerful you truly are. Kindly subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so more juicy light bringers like you can hear these transmissions. And if you're looking to connect more deeply with your body and soul's wisdom, visit CharisseSisou.com to learn how else we can play together. Here's to your joy and wild success. From my heart to yours, I love you. Take what you need and pass it on.